If there was any doubt about where college football was headed, all that doubt should be gone now because it looks all but a sure thing that Texas and Oklahoma are coming to the SEC. Let's talk about it. We've just seen the conclusion of media days and especially SEC media days recently. And with that, there has been a lot of news that's come out, but mostly surrounding what could be happening to college football at large. Specifically, what I'm looking at is the possible expansion of the SEC, which would change college football as we know it. The rumors swirling right now have to do with Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC, which would essentially create a super conference that would have really no other competitors. Yeah, you've got the Big Ten, but for the most part, it would be the conference. You're looking at, I think I heard Josh Pate on 24/7 talking about how this would be like the Amazon, the Google, the Apple of college football. We are now in the big leagues. This is a big money event. This is this is a big money business. And this is just the next evolution, the next step of what is happening in our sport. Now's a great time to hit the like button. Thank you for watching this. Let's keep going. So the big question is, why would Oklahoma and Texas want to do this? The truth is the Big 12 it's really a joke. And so if we're looking at expanding the college football playoff to 12 teams, the natural evolution of the sport of what could happen is, well, we're expanding to 12 teams. There's a bigger chance that more teams can get in. So it really doesn't matter if I play in a cupcake conference or not. If I am playing in this weak conference like the Big 12, I have fewer games that people are actually interested in. And so if people are not interested in your games, that means you're making less revenue, you're making less money. But if I were to move my team, I were to move my university to a conference where everybody cares about almost every single game, almost all your games become big money, big revenue games. Think about it. If you have Oklahoma and Texas possibly playing Alabama or Auburn or Georgia, Ole Miss, all these teams that are exciting to watch, if you add two more exciting teams to the conference, that's only going to drive up revenue. That's only going to drive up how much money these colleges are bringing in. So this makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people are not going to like this. I'm not saying I love this idea. I don't really like these teams, but at the same time, think about the business side of it. Think about the money that could be generated. You don't think we're going to have Auburn fans who want to fly out to either Oklahoma or Texas possibly every year or every other year to one of those places to see their team, to see our team, Auburn, play in those stadiums, in those iconic stadiums? I'd do it. So one, you're going to get this extra revenue of these big teams who want to visit your area. They're going to spend money in your restaurants, spend money in your stadium, spend money at your hotels. So money comes into the areas from these teams, but at the same time, advertisers want to advertise. They want to pay you to put their commercials in front of your games or in your games because they know how many eyes will be watching these teams play. So this makes perfect sense. Is it something everyone wants? Absolutely not. Are there going to be problems with it? Yeah, it's essentially creating a super conference. This is where all the good teams will live, with the exception of who? Ohio State? Michigan's a joke now. Who outside of the SEC and outside of Ohio State, who really is a contender? And do not say Notre Dame. We know they're a joke. Every time they get to the playoffs or to the national championship, they can't convert. So I don't want to hear somebody like Notre Dame, who is an actual team outside of the SEC. I forgot Clemson, sorry. So outside of Clemson and Ohio State, who can actually compete? The answer is there's not really anybody. So I think the direction we could be heading in we could be seeing something like the NFL where we're going to have an AFC and an NFC. So that is where I expect us to go next. I should probably first explain why I'm confident about the fact that this is going to happen with Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC. And this morning there was a tweet from Kirk Bowles, and I want to read that to you real quick. It says, prominent Big 12 source tells the American Statesman the Texas-Oklahoma move to the SEC is almost done. They've been working on this for a minimum of 6 months, and the A&M leadership was left out of discussions and wasn't told about it. Move could become official in a week. So we could officially have an announcement about Texas and Oklahoma within the next 7 days. This is really just crazy news. It's huge news, and I'm honestly surprised at how they kept this a secret for this long. And so now that it seems like this may actually be happening, the next logical question is, if they come to the SEC, we're going to have a realignment. So what does that realignment look like? So first, I want to show you the ideas that some other people have had of what could happen if we have Oklahoma and Texas join us. And then I'll tell you my opinion on their graphs, their charts that they made, and what I think could happen or what I think should happen. So first, let's take a look at a realignment chart that was done by the guys at the War Report. I asked them to send this to me, so I have their permission to use it. So I will show you first their graph. If you were on their live stream a couple days ago, this will look familiar, but I want to talk about their idea for what a realignment could look like, and then I want to look at one from someone else. Okay, so on this chart that they made, you're going to notice really only 2 changes that happened. And I've heard this tossed around in some different places, but the 2 moves that they're suggesting to happen would be to move Alabama and Auburn from the SEC West to the SEC East. And then taking their place would be Oklahoma and Texas. The question for me is, would this truly be balanced if they did it this way? What problems could occur if they realigned the conferences in this way, and what would I do different? So I think my biggest gripe with this model is that it is still that East-West division, and at this point, I don't know if that's the best way to divide it. I really think it should be split based on which games will make for the most entertainment, to be honest, because ultimately this is a business. The SEC is in it to make money. And so what would be the most entertaining for us, but 2, what would provide the most lucrative games for the SEC? And I think the best way to do that would be split Alabama and Auburn. So if we just flip-flopped Bama and let's say Texas, that could make it where we have the Iron Bowl every year, but then there's still an opportunity for Alabama and Auburn to play again. And then the same thing with Texas and Oklahoma. If they're split, they play one time for sure, but then there's an opportunity for a second rivalry game to happen in the SEC championship. So I think the opportunity to, 1, make more money is higher, and 2, to have more entertaining games, which I think ultimately is the goal. So I think creating this super conference in the SEC, while there are a lot of concerns, it could be a good thing, and I think we probably need to find a way to accept it, because from everything I'm hearing, it sounds like it is going to happen. It sounds like the Big 12 is more or less being busted up, and those teams are going to be scrambling to get brought into other conferences. It hasn't happened yet, but if you see the exodus of Oklahoma and Texas, the other teams are not going to be far behind. They will be trying to get into the Pac-12 or ACC or who knows where else, whoever will take them, but I think the Big 12 is about to be dissolved. The next model I want to look at is the SEC This Morning proposal. And in this one, it's very different than what we've seen with other models. This one, we're really looking at 4 team pods. And so it kind of reminds me, honestly, of like how the World Cup seeding happens with the different groups. And so in this one, you would have, if we increase to 16 teams in the conference, it would be 4 pods of 4 teams. And you can see at the bottom it says this is what the schedule would look like. You'd have 9-game conference schedule format. There's going to be You would play all 3 other teams in your pod. You'd play 2 games against each of the other 3 pods for a total of 9 games. And every host team, so you'd host every team at least once every 4 seasons. So at least every 4 seasons you would play all the teams. So that is, a model. I kind of hate it, to be honest. I don't like this plan. I know you could still have your rivalry games that we've always had, but at the same time, I'm not a fan of this model, and I do prefer having the 2 divisions within the conference that then come together at the end for the SEC championship. But I'd love to hear what you think about this pod model. Personally, like I said, I'm not a fan. And I think I said earlier, I would tell you what I would like to see. And really, all I would like to see is for Auburn to go to the East, Texas or Oklahoma to go to the East, the other team, Texas or Oklahoma, to go to the West, and Bama stay in the West. I know geographically that doesn't make sense, but I think from a standpoint of entertaining games, what's going to make money, I feel like that would create some entertaining games that could happen every single year. But once again, this is always a conversation, so I'm interested in your thoughts. What do you think? What are your concerns about Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC? What are the positives of them joining? What are your thoughts overall about this super conference idea and the implications it could have for college football going forward? Thank you again for watching this show, this channel. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please consider subscribing, leave a like, and I will see you in the next one.